Dear students, in this session we are going to discuss about 6th Standard Chemistry Unit 4 Air. Air is present everywhere around us. We cannot see air, but we can feel its presence in so many ways. For example, we feel air when the trees rustle, clothes hanging on a clothes line, pages and open book flutters, when the fan is switched on, when kites fly in the sky. We cannot see, touch, or taste air, but we can feel it. It is the air that makes all these moments possible. Thus, we can understand that air is present all around us. Atmosphere. Our Earth is surrounded by a huge envelope of air called the atmosphere. Atmosphere extends to more than 800 kilometers above the surface of the Earth and is held in place by the Earth's gravity. The atmosphere protects us from many harmful rays coming from the sun. The air envelope is thicker near the Earth's surface, and as we go higher, the density and the availability of air gradually decreases. This is because as we go higher, the force of gravity decreases, so it is not able to hold large amount of air. The atmosphere is made of five different layers: the troposphere, the stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, and the exosphere. The troposphere is the layer closest to the earth. It is the layer in which we live. It extends upwards for about 16 kilometers above the surface of the earth. Movement of wind takes place in this layer. It is also contains water vapor which responsible for making clouds. This layer is responsible for the weather we experience on earth. Aircrafts usually fly above this layer to avoid strong winds and bad weather. The stratosphere lies above the troposphere. This layer has the ozone layer in it. The ozone layer protects all life of Earth from the harmful ultraviolet rays or the sun. Experimental verification of presence of oxygen, carbon dioxide and nitrogen in air. For a long time, that is until 18th century, human thought air as a fundamental constituent of matter. However, an ingenious experiment conducted by Joseph Priestley in 1774 showed that air is not an elementary substance but a composition or mixture of gases. He was also able to identify a colorless and highly reactive gas which was later named oxygen by the great French chemist Antoine Lavoisier. Presley took a tub of water and made a float and placed a candle on it. He covered the candle with a glass jar. As you would have guessed, the candle flame was extinguished in a very short time. He used a magnifying glass to focus on the sun rays to light the candle. Thus, he tried to relight the candle many times without opening the seal jar. The candle could not be relight. It was clearly that something in the air was being used to burning and being converted into another substance. Once the substance in the air that was aiding the burning was completely used by the burning flame and converted into another substance, the flame went out. Now, the jar was inside the water. Presley could gently lift the jar and place a live mouse inside it without allowing outside air to enter the jar. Without oxygen, as you would have guessed, the mouse died. It was clearly that oxygen was necessary for the survival of the mouse. In the next step, he gently lifted the jar and placed a mint plant. You could see that the plant is inserted into the bell jar. When the jar is very much inside the water, this is done to ensure that the outside air is not entering into the bell jar. Plant being a living thing like mouse, perhaps he thought would died. Instead, the plant survived. After placing the mint plant, he lit up the candle and it continued to burn. In fourth experiment, he took a jar, burned a candle and converted all oxygen into carbon dioxide. He placed a mint plant and a mouse into this jar. Both the plant and the mouse survived. He found that plants and animals have a Synergy. Animals consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide, and plants take up carbon dioxide and release oxygen. For this experiment, it was clear that air is a composed mixture of many gases like oxygen. Test for the proportion of oxygen and nitrogen in air. We know that iron undergoes rusting with oxygen and forms iron oxide. This process can be used to estimate the percentage of oxygen in air which has been removed by the rusting reaction. Take a small portion of iron wool, press it into a 20 ml graduated test tube and wet it with water. Tip away excess of water. Take a 500 ml beaker and fill half the beaker with water. Invert the test tube and place it in air. Leave the arrangement until at least a few weeks without making any disturbance to the test tube. Observe the changes that had happened in the iron wool and to the level of water inside the test tube. We could see that the water level has increased inside the test tube. The rise in water is because of oxygen in air which has been removed by the rusting reaction. This will be about 20% of which is approximately the percentage of oxygen in. Now, test for carbon dioxide in air. Pour some lime water in a glass tumbler. Bubble some air using a straw through the lime water. After a few minutes, look at the lime water carefully. The lime water will produce a white precipitate and the lime water will eventually turn into a milky white solution. This shows the presence of carbon dioxide in air. Composition of air from Priestley's experiments, which was followed by engineers and Rutherford, we came to know that air was not just one substance. We will now describe that the air is made up of. This is called composition of air. The major component of air is nitrogen. Almost 4 to 5th of air is nitrogen. The second major component of air is oxygen. About 1/5 of air is oxygen. In addition of nitrogen and oxygen gases, air also contains small amount of carbon dioxide, water vapor and some other gases like argon, helium, etc. The air may also contain some dust particles. Test for the presence of dust particles in air. You might have seen the sunlight entering into a dark room through a narrow slit and making shiny dust particles dancing merrily on the path of sunlight. Actually, the air in a room always contains some dust particles, but they are also small that normally they are not visible to us. When a beam of sunlight falls on them, the tiny dust particles become visible. Shall we do any activity to calculate the amount of dust particles in air from our area? Take a graph sheet. Using marker pens, draw a 5 into 5 centimeter square on the graph. Apply a thin film of grease on the graph sheet. The sheet will serve as dust collector. Make 4 or 5 graph sheets. Discuss the whole class as where to place the dust collectors, how long to collect dust particles and place the dust collectors in agreed precision. Ensure that the dust collector do not get blown away after the time scheduled for performing this activity is reached. Remove the paper and count the number of collected dust particles in the marked area in all the sheets using a magnifying glass at the dust collectors. We can see something similar to diagram. The calculate of the mean number of dust particles in the marked area. Test for water vapor in air. Take a few ice cubes in a glass. Keep it on the table for a few minutes. Observe what happens. You could see tiny droplets of water all over the outer surface of the glass. From where do these droplets come? The water vapor present in the air condenses on the cold surface of the glass. This shows that the air contains water vapor. Burning and combustion. When we burn a candle, paper, kerosene, coal, wood, or cooking gas, oxygen is needed. The oxygen needed for the burning of candle, paper, kerosene, coal, wood, and cooking gas comes from the air around us. Therefore, burning a substance continuously so as to make a fire, a continuous supply to fresh air is needed. If we cut off the supply of fresh air to a burning substance, then the burning substance will not get oxygen necessary for burning to continue, and hence the substance will stop burning. In rockets, as they go high in the atmosphere, the availability of oxygen is considerably reduced. Therefore, in rockets, along with the fuel, oxygen is also carried for combustion. The process of burning of a substance in the presence of oxygen and releasing large amount of light and heat is called burning. If the process does not emit flame, then it is called combustion. Important of air for survival of plants and animals. First, we can see respiration in plants. Plants require energy for their growth, and hence respiration also occurs in plants. During respiration, plants take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, just as animals do. Gaseous exchange with air in atmosphere takes place in plants with the help of tiny holes called stomata present on their leaves. Photosynthesis. Plants manufacture food by a process called photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil react in the presence of sunlight to produce food. Most plants possess a green pigment called chlorophyll, and it is also used up in the process of photosynthesis. The word equation given explain the process of photosynthesis. Plants release oxygen during photosynthesis, which is much more than the oxygen consumed by the plants during respiration. Respiration in animals. When we breathe in air, the oxygen present in the air reacts chemically with the digested food within the body to produce carbon dioxide gas, water vapor, and energy. This energy is required to carry out many processes in the body, such as movement, growth, and repair. This process by which oxygen reacts with digested food to form carbon dioxide, water vapor, and energy is called respiration. The process can be represented. Carbon dioxide formed during respiration dissolves in the blood and is exhaled out of the body through the lungs. The inhaled and exhaled air thus contain the same substance but in different proportion. Expect nitrogen, which is present in the same amount. Inhaled air contains more oxygen while exhaled contains more carbon dioxide. Uses of air. Air is used by plants and animals for breathing. Air is used for burning fuels like wood, coal, kerosene, LPG, etc. Compressed air is used to fill tires of various kinds of vehicles. Air plays an important role in maintaining the water cycle in the nature. Ozone layer present in the atmosphere helps in preventing harmful radiations of the sun from reaching the earth's surface. Under extraordinary conditions such as a patient having breathing difficulties, a mountaineer climbing a high mountain, a diver going deep into the sea, oxygen gas cylinders are used for breathing purposes. Windmill. Blowing air is used to turn the blades of windmills. The windmills are used to draw water by running pumps, run floor mills, and to generate electricity. In this chapter, we saw about the components and uses of air, performing experiments and arriving at conclusions, the role of oxygen in the process of burning. To realize the significance of air for the survival of plants and animals on Earth, appreciate the need of air in protecting our atmosphere. Thank you, students.